How's my hair look, guys? All right. This is your plate, and handle it like a sleeping baby. So you know the drill. You make sure that you set things down really softly so as not to warp it in any way. Um, what you're going to want to do is, as I roll up my sleeves, uh, you're going to want a nice thin curve that is not too extreme. So we're going to take this, and we have a little bed here. There's some foam, a sheet, and then your clay body. So we're going to throw this sheet over the top of it, being careful that there's no wrinkles or imperfections in the sheet. And what I like to do at this point is just take my sheet and buff out my raw edge of my plate, because it softens it up in a really nice way, and it's also warp speed fast. So I'm going to take that and just kind of go around this, being careful about wrinkles. This is pretty simple. Now, this is not going to work if you have just cut your plate and it hasn't dried yet. The only time where it's going to work is if it's dried to a leather hard. And so this is some of the clay that I've used already, and you can see if I hold it, it's not really going anywhere, you know what I mean? So what we're going to do is take this bisque mold, all right, and center it as best we can. And the way that I do it is I just kind of take my fingers and kind of set my fingers so that I'm touching the clay through the sheet, and also the bisque bowl. If the bisque bowl hits on either side in the same spot on my hand, so it's kind of hitting right where my finger meets my hand, then I'm good. I'm going to go over to this side and kind of like adjust it so that it hits in the same spot, and then I'm good. All right, and then I'm just going to do kind of like a rock and press and lift up, and then you're quick as you can, you have yourself a curved plate. Now, if your clay is like mine and it's not holding very well, you can actually take some plastic. Now, pretend that this is plastic right now, and you can actually put it over your plastic this way. Because I have nobody else that I need to share this bisque plate with, I can actually press this against my bisque mold. And then what I can do, so I guess what I'm saying is most likely your clay is not going to be dry enough for you to do it, but we have to get on with things. So because of that, you're kind of at a disadvantage, but that's okay. Now, if you see here, the top, or this is the underside of my plate. So it's a nice gradual curve, easy to eat on. I'm going to take my fabric and soften up my outside edge on the underside of my rim, and it gives me a softer, nicer rim. That's really all there is to it. So now what I have is something that looks like this, and I can take and clean it up a little. And I've got a banding wheel, and I also have this thing called a bat, because if you have something like a bisque mold that you're setting it on, you can set it on the bat. If your plate is really wide, you can set it on the bat, and then you can start working with it and spinning it around, because the banding wheels are only so wide. So now what I'm going to do is make sure that I have it centered by just doing a very light sketch. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping my hand nice and steady. So I'm going to do a light sketch, and I'm going to measure out and say to myself, okay, this is a little bit far over here, so I'm going to move this. This is a little bit close over here, a little bit far away over here. I'm going to move it over to the closer side. If you remember anything about throwing, you know that you know that anything that's far away from your side, you actually have to move it and shift it like a little bit over from the far side. So this is looking pretty even, and I'm going to give you guys a quick shot of it from above, and hopefully it's not too bad. I do that because editing takes a long time, and I just don't have time. So if you don't like my camera work, I apologize ahead of time. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting a place for a foot. So I'm going to mark this, and what I want is for it to be somewhat wide actually. So I usually like to make it so that if I have a wide curve, it's right at the beginning of where it changes into more of like a vertical. And what I have here are some strips that I've made. I have a tool. This is your tool that you want to use. It's called a beveled tool, okay? Beveled foot tool. Just take any scrap slab that you have and run it along in kind of a curve along the table, and you can make yourself a really even foot kind of slab area. Now you're going to take a damp sponge and clean this up. So we're going to take that and just kind of make it look pretty. So a call came in, which means that I have to edit this anyway. That's great. I'm just going to edit this out because it's a bad moment. All right, so here's where we're at. So we're going to get this going. And it was spam nonetheless. And I think for my foot, I'm going to make kind of like a nice little tripod. So I'm going to put one here. And then I'm going to just make sure that I cut them all the same. So I'm going to do a triple foot because I want to, because I can. And I'm going to go in like this and do some scoring and slipping now. So you can see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to mark where I have to score and slip. And that's really the next step to this.